Beautiful spring morning. It's noon Mountain Standard Time, and I am so glad to be here with you guys live. So tell me where you guys are from. I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. Are you having a spring-filled day where you're at, or is it a different type of day? I know some regions are getting snow, some regions are getting really, really hot weather, rainy weather. I mean, I guess maybe all of that is part of spring. I don't know. But let me know what you are up to and how things are going and how your holiday weekend possibly was. We had a great time here in Salt Lake City, Utah. So today we are working on the Live Well, Live Strong quilt, and we're working on getting your quilt top sewn together. So this is the small foundation paper piece version of the Live Well, Live Strong quilt. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do today, but we're actually going to do it today with the large scale Live Well, Live Strong quilt pattern. Okay, the standard size. So hello, hi Liz, it's so good to see you. What are things like for you up there in Canada, and what else are you guys doing? How was your weekend? So with the Live Well, Live Strong quilt, we have sewn together the blocks. We have put them into two different units. So the two different units are right here. We have one section that is sewn completely together like this, and then we have another section that is completely sewn together like, oh sorry you guys, I'm backwards. We have one section completely sewn together right like this, and it's completely sewn, and then the other section that we have sewn together has the shine quilt block in it and these other 6 blocks. So this is the strength quilt block side, and all the other quilt blocks that go together with different health and wellness topics as we've been along our way. And so we are going to connect these two sides together. And it's a little tricky because I'm going to teach you a couple pointers. Hello, Linda. Hi. Yes, I had a wonderful Easter. I took Easter dinner up to Betty and Brant with Luke and Corey, and I did an Easter egg hunt with them with actually money in the eggs. And it was so cute because Brant's 101 and Betty's 98, but they were so excited to go find those eggs. And I kind of they could see them laying around. I had Luke kind of go and grab them all and then divvy them out. But it was really cute. They loved seeing who got the most money, do you know what I mean, and all that kind of stuff. So we had fun. There was also candy in the eggs too, but we just threw in coins and some dollars and lots of different things. So it was really fun, and we had a great meal, and we just had a wonderful, beautiful day. So, and on Saturday, we spent it with Ellie and my son and his wife, and we did a little Easter egg hunt there, and we left those eggs in the sun a little bit too long, and the chocolate was really melted for Ellie, but we quickly froze them. So we always have to find solutions, right? Okay, so tell me about what you guys did. I'm so curious. For your holiday weekend, please share and share. Yes, Linda, I would love all of you guys to come to our little Easter egg hunts. They're really cute. So anyways, in fact, I thought about you guys during the week and thinking how fun that would be to do that together. So anyway, so we are sewing these two sides together of this quilt. And full size, it's right behind me. It's 60 by 60 inches. And what's important about when we sew these two sections together is we want a flat quilt top. Hello, Dolores. She's working on a king-size quilt for her daughter that's been made for over 2 years. Good job. And you're having a hard time with your shoulder, but she's using embroidery thread to tie it. Good job. I'm so proud of you. Now, in this quilt, we've got different points and 1/4 inch seam allowances that we're wanting to respect as we seam this together. So that's what we're going to work on today. And so let's get started. So this is the section with the sunshine block right here, completely put together. This is the section with the strength quilt block completely put together. So now we are going to join these two sections. And I'm going to show you how to go ahead and pin this together. You want to make sure as you're putting your quilt blocks together that they are pressed and they are squared. So let me change my camera view to the overhead one. Here we go. So I'm putting my strength quilt block or quilt section down right here. Let me move my sewing machine back a little bit. And you guys, I think my sewing machine definitely needs a cleaning. We talked about this last time. So I've got my pins that I'm going to use right here. So I'm laying down this section, and this is the power quilt block that's going to come up next to the content quilt block. Let me put, if you're wanting to learn more about where to get this pattern or anything, or to learn more about me, I'm at stitchesquilting.com, and that's my business online. So I just put that into the comments. But right here, we're going to match these up. And first of all, we want to go ahead and pin gingerly this one side right here. We're going to bring this along and just kind of gingerly or generously match our two rows together. Then we're going to go back along it and make sure that we've got really good matches in our seams and in the things that we are matching from side to side. So just first give just a easy pinning as you're kind of putting these two long stretches together of your quilt top. So you might be piecing together a quilt in rows or whatever that might be. So I'm going to go to about right here, and then I'm going to go back over to this corner. If I've done a good job of sewing everything accurately, this is going to naturally match up. And I'm pretty clear in the instructions of the Live Well, Live Strong quilt pattern to go ahead and make sure you're squaring everything up as you move along. Okay, now I've got this generally quilted. It's all really nice and smooth, and there's no huge gaps or easements of fabric. So now I'm going to be a little bit more careful about my pinning. Now right here, I am going to want to go ahead and make sure I can see this intersection of my 1/4 inch seam allowance so I can catch the intersection of those two stitching lines. So you want to carefully pin this, and I'm actually going to pin this so that my seam allowance is pushing over the way I want it to push over, so that I can see that intersection right there. Let's go over here. I can easily see this intersection laid out of the X of those two seam allowances. So just stick a pin in it, and I keep my pins there, but I don't go all the way up to my 1/4 inch seam point. I can feel some extra fabric right over here. You can see that little flap. I'm going to go ahead and lay a pin right in there just to get it sure. I'm going to add 2 more pins right here, because you want to make sure if you do this really long stitching, you're getting in a true thing. So a little bit of pinning is smart to do as you're feeding this along. And you will find some different seams, even though this is a sampler quilt where it's kind of randomly placed. The blocks are strategic, and there are some points where you want to make sure that you match things up properly. Now here I have a little problem, and I want to show you what I would do in a problem like this. You can see this is pretty high right here, and this one's a little bit low in there. And so I am going to go ahead and just leave a little bit of a gap of fabric right there to then make sure that I'm hitting this 1/4 inch seam and I'm not cutting off any of my points of these blocks. So I'm going to pin this with the seam allowance open so I can see that crossing. I'm going to allow a little bit less extra fabric right here, but I'm going to ease it in with my additional pinning so that I'm absolutely going to keep a smooth line as I'm stitching away. So right here is another area where I want to see that 1/4 inch seaming. Now, depending on what thread colors that you have used. How do you guys, thank you Donna for enjoying the pattern, but what other tips do you have as you are piecing together? Before I went on live, I made sure I pressed these sections really well. So they've got a really good press there. I'm going to show you right here where I've used like a yellow shade of thread, or my shade of thread is really neutral to what's happening there. So I am going to use a Fix-On pen, and I'm going to mark where I want that 1/4 inch seam allowance to be right there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and mark that, and you can see that I've marked that where the intersection of those two stitching lines are. So if there's a place, because by the time I've got this over at my sewing machine, I'm not necessarily, my vision isn't nearly as close. So I'm going to make that obvious so I can have a little bit more confidence as I'm stitching that through. So let's go ahead and examine this again. Here I've got, once again, that yellow, the cream or the white thread on top of that yellow, which is harder to see. And right here, I'm going to go ahead and mark that because it's once again harder to see my stitching on that lighter fabric. Now, let's take a peek in between here, and there's going to be a few seam allowances like right here. This is a point that I'm going to want to accommodate. I don't have perfect stitching there, so in order to accommodate that, I'm going to mark on this side of the fabric where about that 1/4 inch seam allowance is. And if I'm possibly not going, and let's go ahead and mark that a little bit lower. I want to mark that a little bit lower. And I'm going to give myself a little bit more easement on that top fabric because I don't have very much room on that back. So I'm going to give more fabric on this top so that I can accommodate this section right back here. So you can see the white fabric can be showing through that. Normally you wouldn't see that. Let's peek at some of our other points here. So here I've got another point to match. So let's go ahead and mark that with our Frixion pen. And the Frixion pens usually comes in several colors. You can use the different shades of them to match what fabric you're using. So right here, it looks like these are actually matching up. So you can see I've got a 1/4 inch seam allowance right here and a 1/4 inch seam allowance here. So these two are matching up. I'm going to want to stick a pin straight through this point right here, the top point of that quilt block. And then I'm going to want to stick a pin straight in through this point of my quilt block, right on that opposite side. I'm going to keep that pin horizontal, right like that. And I'm going to show you an additional tip here. Hold on. Oh, I got these out this last week. Oh, here they are. You can use fork pins. So let me show you what a fork pin is to help you with your piecing too. So sometimes the fork pins can just give you a little bit more confidence and surety as you're matching up your points. So I actually have these for sale at stitchesquilting.com, but you can go ahead and place these on either side to then go ahead and make sure that those points are going to match up together. I'm going to go ahead and put one in the center too. So this is a tip where you see different products out there that can actually help. So it's called a fork pin. It has a U shape and it's usually parallel lines with your pins there. Does anybody have fork pins? Anybody out there have fork pins or use fork pins regularly to match up your points? So now I'm going to take out this horizontal pin because I've used these to kind of get that really sure, and that's not going to shift around. Okay, once again, I've got another 1/4 inch seam here. It looks pretty good, but I am going to mark it with my Frixion pen. So let's go ahead and give that a little mark. I'm trying to hold it up higher for you, but best bet would be to use your ruler on your cutting mat and to mark that with your ruler. So let's go ahead and see. Can you see how that is? Where I marked it with that ruler right there. So you can just use a smaller ruler. Let's see if we have any other 1/4 inch seams on the back side to match. We have one right here. So I'm going to go ahead, and that's one where I'm using a little bit less fabric. So I want to show you, you could re-sew some of those blocks. But really the most important thing that you want to do is to get a quilt done, right? So in order to get that quilt done, you don't always have to re-sew every single block. I want to show you where you might have imperfections and what you want to do to kind of fix those imperfections as you're sewing things together. We aren't sashing these quilt blocks, and I'm going to mark, well, that one looks pretty good right there, but let's go ahead and mark it. Okay, so let's take this underneath the sewing machine. So I think one of the most important things that you can do is your prep work. I'm going to show you this one. I've got 3 points on this content quilt block. Don't we always want to feel content in life? So 1, 2, and 3. I am going to actually lay this down on my sewing mat like this, because this is how I would normally do this. I would take my little ruler, if I wasn't live, but I'm trying to help you guys see it up close. I'm going to take this over to where those points are hitting my ruler, And then I'm going to just use my Fix-On pencil, and sometimes I go over a couple different times just so it's a little bit more truer and I can see it better. And the Fix-On pen will erase with your iron. All of the marks will just disappear. Although you might want to test just in case. Yes, Dolores, I love my fork pins, and I'm sorry I don't use them more. I just unpinned a pin. So let's go ahead and put that in. Okay, we're going to take this underneath the sewing machine needle, and I have just realized that my sewing machine is actually really not. I learned some new tips and tricks, you guys. It is amazing not having to take care of Luke 24/7 and having an agency help me. I still have Luke just all sorts of times, like he comes back over today and I help him get to work. But oh my goodness, I have so much time to do creative things and to solve little problems. So I solved a problem on my second machine this weekend, but I need to solve a problem on this machine. It's it says it's overheating and it'll want to pause. So let's go ahead and keep bringing this through. I'm going to keep an eye on these marks, and then I don't have to be leaning over so close to my sewing project and can have better posture that will kind of relieve my back health, right? It's going to help me as I like to quilt and sew a lot, right? And we want to have good back health, but we don't want to be crunched over by that sewing machine. Normally I would have maybe my sewing machine a little closer to me, but in my live videos I don't do that because I want you guys to be able to see a little bit more space as I'm bringing these through. This might be a good time for my third camera, and I just went by that spot where there were the fork pins. Now, what other piecing tips do you guys have? Can you guys please teach me some more things about how you piece? What piecing tips do you have to share so that your points are matching? Please share. All of you guys are expert quilters, and I have known you for so many years, but I would love to know any piecing tips. Oh, my sewing machine just overheated. Now, we're going to let that cool down because I'm almost at this point, but I want to show you something that I did. We have often on our sewing machine little threaders to thread our sewing machines automatically. But my little needle was curved with this sewing machine, and I couldn't get the little thread catcher to come through the eye of the needle. So I got out some of my tweezers. I try to buy good quality tweezers for my eyebrows, right? But I have this tweezer right here and this tweezer right here. So today I actually fixed my little threader and straightened out that hook with these teeny tiny little tweezers. So that's just a quick tip I wanted to share with you, is I use these teeny tiny tweezers to straighten out the hook to come through the eye of the needle to thread my needle. Do you guys have self-threaders on your sewing machine? Let me know if you do. So this is a little sewing tweezer kit that I keep actually in my makeup bag for just those rare moments when I want to tweeze my eyebrows. Okay, so now my sewing machine is not so hot, so I can go back to sewing, but I had a prepared little tip for you guys there. So let's go ahead and bring this over. Now, it's some of these points. These are a lot of points to match up, which is one of the great things about the Live Well, Live Strong quilt. It is a skill building sampler quilt, and we are now going to take some of these. Oh, Liz does not use it. I like to use mine because I definitely have to put on reading glasses to see everything. Let's get these pins out, and I can do that fast for you. I'm going to move my sewing machine over and bring over a pressing pad so that we can check out live if the seams are matched. Here are my fork pins. I like to separate some of my pins in different methods, and I do like to put my fork pins back in the fork pin holder. So let me go ahead and put these on here. Okay, here we go. So we are going to, but okay, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, but I have some quilts for you guys that are where they're a combination of two of these quilt blocks varying. And oh, it's so beautiful. I can't wait to show you guys. So let's check out our points. We've got good points here. Look at that. Here was the content quilt block with those 3 points. It looks beautiful. Good point right there, here and here. It looks very nice and clean. This one I did have to ease extra space in there, but I like having that negative space. Just the way I constructed my block, there was space right there. So I left that extra space, and this one is matched up with both sides. So you would rather have a floating point, but not a cut off point, all right? So you want those points to float and not cut off. I've got some extra threads here, so I need to de-thread my quilt top here, and I will also do a lint roller. So let's go ahead and bring over the pressing mat. I think that this looks absolutely beautiful, but it looks even more beautiful. Let's bring up the content quilt block after you do some pressing. So let me go ahead and show you, once you press this, just how absolutely beautiful this is. I will take this on one of my big dining room table, and I'm going to lay this out, and I'm going to lint roll and kind of pick out all of these threads. Now, I've got some fun news for you guys. So we have 2 quilt tops that are now ready to be quilted. And I am so excited. So our next step with our live video tutorials is going to be how to quilt, how to layer your quilt and prepare it for quilting. And then I'm going to show you how to actually quilt your quilt on your domestic sewing machine. I'm just so super excited about this. We also have the small 20-inch by 20-inch Live Well, Live Strong quilt with all 26 quilt blocks in there. And I'm going to show you how to hand quilt this one. We could machine quilt it really easy and really fast. I've got a great technique for you to machine quilt this, but to do it on your domestic sewing machine. So those are some of the other videos that we are going to work on next. So won't that be just so wonderful? And I will be launching the Live Well, Live Strong course, and that will be starting up for you. So if you want a behind the scenes access to all of the illustrations and things like that, that course launch will be opening up for purchase very soon. And then you'll be having Zoom where I can see you on the videos too. So it's going to be really a lot of fun. But our next step and our next live is going to be focusing on layering our quilts and prepping them for machine quilting on our domestic sewing machines. And I've got great tips and tricks that you can do at home. And you don't necessarily always have to send it out to a long arm quilter, and saves you money. So be sure to like and subscribe. If you haven't picked up your Live Well, Live Strong quilt book pattern yet, please pop over to Stitches Quilting and check out all of check out the quilt pattern and the other things that are available with it. So anyways, you guys, it is so good to see you on a beautiful Monday day. I have my back porch door open and doors open, and I can hear the birds chirping, and I have a little bird building a nest back there, so it is so fun. I hope you're enjoying this springtime, and I can't wait to see you on Wednesday at noon. So have a good one, Mountain Standard Time. We'll see you guys later. Have fun.